Hello and welcome to our week of celebrating Indie Author Week UK in a series of videos that we call Wine and a Book.
Good evening and welcome to our third event in the series Wine and a Book, in which we talk about books that we have published. Cheers! That's nice. This evening I'm going to be talking about my book, The Lichens of Jersey, which was written partially by me, but the historical part was written by Amanda. It was in 1998 that Dr. Oliver Gilbert of Sheffield University asked me, on behalf of the States of Jersey Department of the Environment, to do a study of the lichens of Jersey. So I was busy going to Jersey frequently from 1998 until 2001. During this time, I was helped on several occasions by the late and great Peter James, former keeper of botany at the Natural History Museum. Locally, I was helped by Bridget Ozarn, who was a lichenologist, and also by Roger Long, who is such a feature in the affairs of the island. The lichens of Jersey are important. There is a fine woodland, St. Catherine's Wood, in which there are several very important species of ancient woodland. The church, that is St. Brelard's Church, contains 213 species, which at the time was the highest number recorded in any church in the British Isles. I can say British Isles because the Channel Islands are not in the United Kingdom. They're not part of Britain, but they are as a part of the British Isles. So it could take on that for a time. I suspect that other churches have taken over since, because we haven't really done a great deal of work in Jersey recently, and I would suspect there are churches now in England that have more than 213 species. Anyway, The Lichens of Jersey. It was published in 2015 by the Société Jersiaise, and I will read an extract from it. One of the major difficulties in writing a county flora, especially if historical information is to be included, is the number of apparently untranslatable names that were used in the 19th century. If a name can be given to a specimen that is 100% identifiable, this helps. However, very often the specimen is old and damaged, and any diagnostic features have been lost. There are also many names that are not valid or were not published correctly. To be a valid name, the name must be properly published and relate to a type specimen stored probably in a national museum. A type specimen is an example of a plant collected and then studied by the author of its scientific name. It is from the specimen that the published scientific description is made. Each time the specimen is renamed, due to a change in how it is perceived, a new type specimen is prepared and designated. These type specimens are of major scientific importance, as it is often crucial to know what the original author of a scientific name meant by it. The type specimen should remove any doubt. The following Jersey examples may help to illustrate the point. Epigrapha aranicida, named by Nylander, is a particularly interesting Jersey species. There is a specimen of the species in the Natural History Museum collections under the name Bilimia premnoides, Nylander. It is very rare on the walls in the Channel Islands. The type specimen of Epigrapha actophila, found to be synonymous with Epigrapha aranicida, is also in the Natural History Museum, collected on soil in Belcrete Bay in 1874, as is the type specimen of Lichens premnoides, which, as well being synonymous with Epigrapha aranicida, is also synonymous with Basidia premnoides and is also in the Natural History Museum. It was originally in the Leighton Herbarium, which also includes 2 specimens from County Galway and Coombe Bochwyth. In Leighton's Lichen Flora, 3rd edition, it states that La Balestier recorded it in walls in Jersey in 1865 under the name Lichens premnoides. Perhaps I should say that I'm pronouncing La Balestier as French. Now, if anybody from Jersey happens to be listening to this, I might well get into trouble for not calling him La Balestier, which they insist, and I've been told off on several occasions for referring to him as La Balestier. The actual type specimen of Epigrapha aranicida, Nylander, referred to on one of the herbarium sheets in the Natural History Museum, is in the Nylander Herbarium in Helsinki, and was also collected in Jersey. A form of this species was discovered recently in Dorset by Vince Giavarini, who thought initially it was new and proposed the name Epigrapha ecclesiastica, as it was found on the north walls of churches. Unfortunately, it was found to be a very distinctive form of Epigrapha aranicida, which has a thick, chalky white thallus due to the presence of large quantities of calcium oxalate. There have been no new findings of this species in Jersey since 1900. And while this shows what fine field lichenologists there were around at the time, it may well not still be present. For the 19th century material, it is not unusual to find that 6 or 7 names were used for the same species. There is also the problem, as there is today, that one botanist would have one concept of a species, while another understood it quite differently. The author of an epithet given to be the usual shortened letters that appear after the species binomial, e.g. L. Nile, ac, or L in inverted commas dot out of inverted commas Nile etc. When it appears, helps modern flora writers to know in whose sense a particular name was given to a plant. The British Lichen Society published a list of synonyms, the Syn list, hopefully not too appropriate a name, which translates previously used names. However, all synonyms have to be treated with the utmost care. It is not unusual for a binomial to have different senses depending on which author appears with it. What does one do if an out-of-date synonym has no author? It is probable that as many as 50% of the names used by Labelastier and his contemporaries are not translatable today. It would be wonderful if a Rosetta Stone of past names could be found or published. But alas, such a document is still pie in the sky. In this work, the name given with the specimen is quoted for all historical material, and it is hoped that as far as possible the historical synonym has been correctly translated. It is also hoped that if in the future the translated synonym proves incorrect, that the author will be forgiven. In the 19th century, botanists were far keener on collecting than their equivalents are today. As referred to above, they would publish fascicles of exicati for exchange. Many of these have limited data, and Crombie and Leighton were prime examples of botanists who did not label their specimens. In many cases, one is lucky to have more than something along these lines. Jersey, 86. Ex-Herb Crombie. Recorded 1897. Anyway, I hope that's of interest. And it is an extract from the lichens of Jersey, and as you can see, it's not just a list of Jersey lichens, it also says quite a bit, more than I've quoted this evening, about lichenology itself. It also says quite a lot, written by Amanda, about the great lichenologist Charles Dubois Labelastier, or Labelastier, as we must call him. Anyway, there we are, and it only remains for me to wish you a very good time, and I hope you will enjoy more of the book. All the best. Bye.